This is game 1, round 1 for Babozo and Zennith. Babozo as Lithuanians in blue, and Zennith as Persians in purple. Now they've banned Burmese and Khmer here, which are interesting choices since Zennith has Persians as his favorite civ. Babozo's favorite civ is Huns. So interesting choices for bans. Khmer was a popular ban because of their scorpions, and Burmese popular ban because their infantry has bonus attack. And I will caveat this video ends with a disconnect, so if you want to see games where a player actually wins, you should skip this video and watch their second set of second video, which has the remaining games for these players. So Lithuanians have very good trash, and so do Persians. Lithuanians will have halbs and skirms. You'll see a lot of crossbows from the Persians player, which will only cost wood. Persians have hussar as an option, which is a food trash unit. Lithuanians have strong paladins, no relics on this map, so no bonus for collecting relics. So it will be interesting to see who takes the advantage. Zennith is on 6 farms. Babozo has 8. These players are both very solid, with about the top of the middle is their seed, with some reactions not being the best choices as far as army comps go sometimes, which could be bad for the Lithuanians player since Persians have so many options. Persians can go cavalry with hussar, heavy cavalry with elephants. They have trash archers, they have halberdiers, they have full siege other than siege onager. The one thing they are missing is the champion line. Lithuanians don't have the best infantry, but they don't need the best infantry, since Persian archers counter infantry anyways. Babozo with 3 town centers. Zennith opts for 4. Now as Persians, you have vills coming out of your town centers faster. So 4 town centers here I think is not the best choice. You can see he's constantly housed because he just doesn't have space for the farms he needs to make all these villagers, while at the same time having enough houses to keep them coming out. So 4 town centers not paying off. You can see Babozo's actually leading in vills. He also went for 4. Interesting for both players. You can see both are dealing with being housed. Ideally, you'd be going up to Imperial Age, cutting space, and then you can add as many town centers as you want and be able to make as much space as you need for farms and houses. Whereas constantly getting this message, giving you a warning that perhaps you don't have enough houses. Both housed at 70, neither one is imp on the way. 4 town centers just does not seem to be the play. For Lithuanians, it might make sense, knowing that the Persians player has much better boom. Adding that 4th town center does make a bit of sense. So we see the monastery go up for Zennith, siege workshop, everything he needs for Imperial Age. Babozo has not yet clicked, but surely will once he sees Zennith is an imp. He's selling now to get what he needs to go up. You can see he has 16,000 wood, far more than you need to get to Imperial Age. Once you have about 12,000 wood, you have plenty to sell to go to Imperial Age and get the Onager upgrade. Now we see Zennith's Onagers come out. Only 2, which 2 is a decent number, but the more you have, the more quickly you can cut. Quicker you can cut, I should say. But 2 is better than 0. Babozo yet to get them out. Onagers idle here. I personally go 3. Slightly better than 2. Some people will opt to have 2 in each control group. Personally, 3 is a good number. Babozo has 1 out. Cutting space. See his university in blacksmith, getting the techs he will need. He's opting for 3 onagers here, and you can see just how quickly you can cut with 3. You can have essentially no idle time. You can cycle through your control groups firing and have very little downtime. Whereas with 2, you can see just how much space they've cut. Pretty comparable now, but Babozo quickly catching up. Now that he has more onagers, castle's going up for both. Persians need a castle for their archers to only cost wood. You can see archery ranges quickly going up for the Persians player. All this space should be used by Zennith. He has plenty of houses, not nearly enough food. This is completely overboard. It's a 250 pop game. He's giving himself an extra 5-6 houses when this should be farm space. Farm space. As Persians, if you're going elephants, you need 50 farms really. And just in general, you want close to 40 to be able to afford your upgrades. Although it won't be the end of the world for the Persians player, since again, these units only cost wood. Siege costs wood and gold, so food not fully necessary. You can see Babozo is closely packing his buildings. When you have trash units, you do want to be fighting in a choke point. Persians are unique in that they excel when the fighting opens up due to having Hussar, Paladin as an option. Crossbows are not best in a choke point because one onager shot can clear out an entire group. And Zennith doesn't know where Babozo will be coming from. He's starting to play reactively rather than proactively. Ideally, he would cut forward down the middle, establish a strong base where he was originally cutting. If he's going here, he needs to quickly get buildings in the choke point. You see, Babozo has a much stronger position here. It will be very difficult to push through this with bombards behind. Bombards being the correct play for Babozo. When you're fighting Persians, bombards will take care of the siege. Bombards will take care of the crossbows, as long as you can have enough units in front to protect. And these bombards will quickly clear out the current composition that Zennith has. He needs halberdiers in front. Again, this is not a strong position. You have 2 barracks where you're planning to fight, 2 more production buildings going up, as opposed to the full line of production from Babozo. Especially for Persians, you're going to be going through a lot of units because you're fighting with trash. You want buildings as close as they possibly can be. Killing some vills, running into crossbows. This needs siege behind to be effective. Not only are these units cheap, but they will quickly clear any halberdiers. Skirms, good play. When you're only fighting halbs and crossbows, skirmishers counter both. The bombards will clear the scorpions. If Zennith can kill a couple bombards, that'd be ideal, but instead Babozo will kill his own bombards. I'll keep the speed here. This is a rather long game. Already at 47 minutes. On 3-player maps they can be quite long. On a smaller map, this game would probably be over by now, so we'll stick with this speed. As Babozo gets some big shots on the scorpions. Zennith's army not attacking. He should be setting a gather point here, here, patrolling the units in. You can see all these idle military units, not in the action. But Babozo loses some ground, just to the sheer numbers Persian players able to output. And if we look, both players are floating over 100,000 resources, both about 100k in wood, about 20k in food. You should be selling, making gold units. This is a trash war. And as Babozo prepares to enter Zennith's base, you really don't want hussars at a choke point. These should be immediately streamed into his eco. If he had run in with that group, that would have been the game, potentially, as they could have cleared out quite a few farmers. Here come the elephants. Trash is going to have a very hard time responding to that. His hand cannoneers are not the play. They counter the halberdiers. Will die to hussars, will die to crossbows, will die to elephants. You already have skirms out for the halberdiers, halbs out for the halberdiers. These hand cannons are not adding value, and they do cost gold. Ideally, you would add onitors. This is one thing that Babozo currently lacks, is any sort of siege to clear out this army, which, once the Persian player masses, will be so difficult to counter that momentum. Zennith will be able to push through. He has the momentum, and we see no siege from Babozo. Other than trebuchets, which counter buildings unless you specifically target, and even then, they are more likely to miss. We do see one bombard go down, 2 trebs go down. Zennith comes out on top with that exchange. And you're fighting scorpions, crossbows in a choke point. Siege is needed here. Now, if we saw some maneuvering from the players, Lithuanians get good cav, so if the fighting opens up, would not be the end of the world for Babozo. If he were to cut here, just to get out of this choke point. If he's not adding siege, then this is not winnable for him. Even though he has such a strong base, he's done the right thing with forward buildings. He's just sending the wrong units in. Zennith is comfortable just sitting in this choke point. Also, Zennith in this position, if he cuts here, can snipe some buildings with bombards, gain some ground with his forward army once the buildings go down. So, let's speed this back up. Now if we look at the eco, lumber camps, decently refreshed. 120 vills, that's not a huge number. The problem here for Zennith is he has over 80,000 resources. Most of his army is his crossbows and hussars. If he were to buy another castle, go more elephants, or add more siege, would be a better use of his resources. 120 is a good number of vills to be on. Looking at Babozo, he has 140. Struggling to keep production up even though he has plenty of resources banked. It's also pretty efficient economy. Mills, so the vills don't have to walk too far. Lumber camps refreshed. Here we see siege from Zennith, but these hussars can quickly clear out any siege, provided you micro. Zennith is coming in with his siege, or his hussars to clear out siege. Bombard war. You should be caring more about buildings than units. You can kill as many units as you want, but you'll never win until these buildings are taken out. As we see, Zennith not able to manage his idle military. He does have plenty of production buildings in the back of his base. This is a very strong thing to do if you are struggling to keep up your population, which we can see both players are going through so many units. Not keeping their buildings queued. It's really hurting Babozo. You can see it's going through so many units. Not having all your buildings constantly queued can swing your population by 30 units. Zennith is not protecting his siege. He's marching his units. Most of them are dying before they're attacking. He is fighting buildings, which is good, but these have no protection. Will quickly fail again. If you are able to push forward, cut here, you're now in Babozo's eco. All his production buildings are here. Cutting to the side, running in with hussars would quickly put Babozo on the back foot. Even though Zennith has not gained much ground in this fight, 3 or 4 trees separate him from Babozo's economy. And we see Babozo 100 population under. Zennith max popped. Babozo can't quickly get units out. This will spell the end for him. Latest, a gold unit, which we have not seen enough of in this game. still see both players have far too many resources. This is a game of efficiency. Whoever is more efficient will usually win. Having 100,000 resources that you're not using, not efficient. Not having full population is not efficient. Again, we see Babozo 220 population. Not ideal. Halbs into crossbows. Not ideal if you keep your halbs back here. Get plenty of siege behind and then push forward. Your halberdiers will protect your siege will kill the crossbows, protecting your halbs. Symbiotic situation, whereas these halbs are running to die to crossbows, and the onagers, not protected, are dying to Zennith's cavalry. We see just how close Zennith is to the economy of Babozo here. Huge score lead for Zennith, 10k. Babozo's 50 pop under. We see Zennith just has so much resources in the bank, contributes quite a bit to the score difference, even though they are roughly equal, with Babozo's 80,000 wood. Again, Zennith is making a mistake here, fighting units rather than buildings. When you have this strong of a position, add some bombards. One trebuchet is not nearly enough. If you have the buildings, push forward, you win. Or, alternatively, you can hold your position, cut into the economy, and opt to raid instead of pushing buildings. Losing a castle would be a huge blow to Babozo. If Zennith can push in, do see outposts on the left side, nothing on the right. Zennith is preparing for any maneuvering Babozo might have. Babozo's economy losing its efficiency. It's hard to keep your lumber camps refreshed when you are, especially when you're on the back foot. We see Zennith's hussar is so close to running in, but it's running in circles around this siege workshop. Babozo quick walls to stop the hussars, which aren't actually coming. And Babozo actually walls in the hussars here as opposed to walling them out. Interesting play. Zennith has a very strong position. If he kills this castle, it would be so much better for him, as each castle will essentially kill one unit every time it fires. We have crossbows fighting skirms and coming out on top because of their numbers. A bit silly. Hussars dancing and not actually doing any damage. Buildings that cost wood going down as opposed to buildings that cost a ton of stone. Not that it would hurt either player. Babozo has 350 stone banked. Again, about 100,000 resources. Zennith in this very similar position, and yet we're seeing mostly trash units. If Zennith wants to finish this off, he needs more gold units. Running Hussar in through all these halbs is not going to help. If you were to cut here, he would be able to get in through the side. At this point, he could attack this side. What he's doing now, he's running units past, and they're mostly dying while they're running since he's not opening this map up. Now Babozo has been able to push back a bit. A couple scorpions with crossbows will counter all these trash units. Babozo really needs to be pumping out onagers. Halberdiers in front. Hussars will counter crossbows if you can mass them. When there's so many crossbows, nearly 60, a stream of hussars is not going to be enough. Skirmishers will be able to clear out the crossbows, but Zennith is doing the right thing, having onagers. Paladin will be much better at clearing out the crossbows. Babozo had used Paladin earlier on in the game, especially when he was over here. Could have pushed in. They're very good at clearing out crossbows, good in open spots. Halbs will counter them well. You can see both players still huge amounts of resources in the bank. Babozo could triple, quadruple this Paladin production. Put units behind to counter Halbs and easily win. Zennith again. Streaming units that aren't really attacking. But this crossbow line is so effective. So we see some hussars coming in. Each bombard cannon costs 225 gold, so losing one would be huge to a player that doesn't have 100k resources banked up. As we see just how strong these elephants are. Hussars struggle to clear it out. One elephant clearing out almost a dozen hussar. And Babozo gains momentum just like that. Sees finally mass numbers if we look at the population. When Babozo is fully popped, he's able to push. When he's not fully popped, he gets pushed back. So a game with a lot of back and forth motion. Again, Babozo has an efficient economy. If we look at Vills, Babozo has 100, Zennith 122. If you're only going trash, it's too much. Too many villagers. This Hussar stream mostly dying before it can actually do anything. Though he is getting some stray bombards. Scorpions coming in to clear out. Again, the composition here should be Halberdier, Onagers. Now Zennith is running out of wood on this side. We'll pull his fills forward here. There's plenty to go over here. Wood isn't a concern for him at this point. I would add some production buildings here. Even if you don't use, if Babozo somehow gets into your base, they'd be good to have. But there's a lot of back and forth here. If you want to change the game, cut up this path. Even along here could work. Though here, when you're already cut halfway into the map, you have a pretty good idea the other players similarly positioned. If the Persians player were to cut here, stream Hussars here, it wouldn't necessarily kill Babozo's economy if he just kills some woodcutters, but Babozo would send Halberdiers to this side as a reaction, which would let this army push through here. So cutting here would let Zennith stream in some Hussars. He could forget about them, focus on his push, and Babozo would have to respond here. Instead, both players opting for a long game with trash units. Again, Zennith sitting at 80k, Babozo down to 50k. Whereas if you see players who are having competitive games at the top, you'll usually see 10k resources at most, maybe banking a little bit more in a long drawn out fight, but certainly anything on the scale of 50,000 is a sign that you should be changing up your balance between economy and army, or changing the composition of your army from trash to gold units. Again, a single castle here. Elephants would be so good against skirmishers. Onagers would be so good against skirmishers. Instead, relying on the hussar. So we see a bit of a mess here. Trash units running everywhere. Hussars all over the place. Again, both players fighting units, which is a fairly common thing for players to get stuck on, whereas the most efficient players will focus buildings, maybe open up, focus on map control rather than who can kill more units. As these onager shots coming in, they will quickly sway. If they had not died, the momentum. Zennith can mass units, clear out these helps. And Zennith again has the score lead, mostly because he's sitting on more resources. Score can be deceiving. Generally in a 10k gap, you would expect one player to be on their way to signing. But in this case, even though Zennith has the ability to end the game, he is not making the right units. We see these hussars running in. Babozo's immediate reaction was to have 16 units come back. Again, he has 11 units to clear up the 5 from Zennith, meaning Zennith can get some momentum here. Babozo responding doubly over here. 11 units chasing the 1. Now they're idle, and that's how quickly attacking from a different angle can sway the game. You see easily Zennith has gained some ground here. He's putting up forward buildings, going for wood economy, not the best. Really what you want to do, run some hussars in, maybe have a few killvilles, but then run through his base, getting into food eco, doing something to distract Babozo. Right now, Zennith has abandoned his middle push, trying to stream hussars in. And you see this reaction from Babozo. Idle Paladin, which could be huge if Zennith used some map leverage by cutting here, cutting down the middle. Neither player able to fully multitask, which is why if you're running units, it's best to click here, forget about them, focus on pushing the middle while the other player has to react. And if we look, Zennith losing ground. He has no siege other than this one scorpion. Crossbows are just not massed. And as the halves go down for Babozo, just not in the right spot. Hussars clear out the skirmishers with crossbows behind, and we're back again to a standstill. If we look, Zennith still about 100k resources. Babozo is quickly becoming more efficient, although his economy is mostly dipping because he lost some of his wood economy. It's not fully popped. Babozo, 1 trebuchet. Ideally you want an army comp trash units in the front acting as a shield. Some units for damage behind either onagers, skirmishers, or archers, with bombard cannons and trebuchets behind to clear out buildings. Babozo is missing the units in the front, just not enough halberdiers. Now he's using hussars, which Zennith's halberdiers will clear out. No units to kill buildings in the back. And as we see Zennith not being able to queue enough units, this is the point where Zennith has disconnected. And now this Babozo has a much better army position. Now that there's no one to fight, the shield in front. Skirmishers is damage. Trebuchets to clear buildings. And fortunately, the first game ends in a disconnect. Other games will be in a later video.